Getting beat up by 9 guys at Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame.
Welcome to the Heel to the Face podcast.
And this right here,
with your hosts, Jared Wicks, Brandon Icebreaker Clements, and Paul Boy Green Esden.
It doesn't matter what your name is. Best there is, the best there was, or the best there ever will be.
Brett screwed Brett because it's what's best for business.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. The champ is here. Oh, yeah. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya!
Tweet us using the handle @HeelToTheFace.
Woo! Let's get ready to suck it!
The bell is rung, so let's step in the ring with your hosts, Paul, Brandon, and Jared.
I might as well tag me up with my buddy from Syracuse.
Another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast is here. As we are joined, as always, with Brandon Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Myself, Jared, just Jared Wicks on Twitter. And most importantly, follow the program at Heel to the Face. That's where you'll find our links for both the program via the audio podcast and on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get this week's edition of the show underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening
with a 20-minute time limit.
So Mean Gene right there, he didn't get everyone's attention. He has to say, ladies and gentlemen, again, that is how radio works. So this week, let's start off. I wanted to save a little bit of this for our social media SmackDown segment, but obviously the announcement was made. It was what I thought it was going to be.
We talked about it a little bit last week.
And it was the all-women's pay-per-view.
Yes.
I heard rumors that it was going to be a women's tag team division. I actually like this better.
This is awesome. This is great.
Awesome?
This is awesome. I'm very, very happy about it because you get the past, the present, and the future, which is the NXT, which was nice because if you looked on Raw on Monday night, Nikki Cross was there, which was fantastic. I was like, great. So we're gonna, and that's what I had a feeling. I was like, okay, why is Nikki Cross
was
there?
acting like she didn't know what the announcement was. Like she knew, but she didn't know. Like all the other ones.
I think she was.
Like she was like really clenching her fist.
Well, that's her character. That's just how she is. That's her character. She's like, if you watch her on NXT, she literally, anyone that watches NXT knows Nikki Cross is like, she's nuts.
Yes.
She's like, she hits every rope going crazy, and her in-ring posture is just absolutely insane. To me, I can't wait till she's on the main roster. She is so fun to watch. Personally, not to get too far off on Nikki Cross, but she's a future, not only NXT Women's Champion, but I think she's a main roster Women's Champion. She's very, very good. So I think it was just her natural character. I think she was just trying to stay in character.
So we all knew what it was going to be. They kind of let us on a little bit of suspense by calling everybody out there. And then as soon as obviously they said women step forward, then it was like, okay, we know.
Now we know
pretty much what it's going to be. But like I said, I'm glad that this is a pay-per-view versus the tag team division because I don't feel that the women's division is strong enough to have more championship belts. If everybody was on one show, I might think differently. But with the dual branded shows, I have trouble having tag team champions with dual branded shows. So when you have dual branded shows, that would mean 2 sets of women's tag team. I don't want to see that. That's too many belts. So I like this actually better.
This format is so much better. It's because you're because like you said, the depth is not really there at this point. I mean, we have
that's why they're including NXT.
That's why
it's not a coincidence.
And the old school.
Yes, and Trish and Lita. Now, what is your opinion on that? Of having them involved?
If they can still go, why not?
I personally have an issue with it because of the fact that, again, it takes us back to the Royal Rumble, and it's supplementing it to an extent, but it's making up for the fact that their roster isn't as deep as they would like it to be, that they have to call on. I mean, it's like WrestleMania.
But here's the thing.
Women's division is like WrestleMania every year. It's
in part, you're correct. I think there's a second part to it. It's such a big event. Why not bring some of the great superstars that were part of the women's revolution, so to speak, like Trish Stratus and Lita? I think it's a combination of two things. I think you're on the right track with that, and I think it's the second part where it's such a big event. It's the first time in history. It's good to have the Trailblazers the women before the women that are in there now, who can still wrestle. I mean, we saw at the we saw in the Women's Royal Rumble that we could see that Lita can still go. We see Trish can still go. So as long as they're still, I think she can still go.
A little bit go.
I think she can still go. She has to be careful with all her injuries she's had over the years, but she can still go pretty good. I think she did well enough in the Women's Royal Rumble match. To me, I think it's just paying homage to not only can they go, but it's bringing them back is not just a depth thing. I think it's just kind of like a tip of the cap, so to speak.
I think it's respectful for the fact that they didn't have that, so they're kind of including them because of the fact that wasn't around. Like Trish Stratus, she didn't have a chance to be in a Royal Rumble, so that's the idea. But I also feel that it is trying to sell a show. It's WrestleMania, the women's division, whenever they do this, is like WrestleMania. They're like, our roster isn't strong enough right now, so we got to have The Rock or Undertaker or Stone Cold or somebody else make an appearance to try to draw some eyeballs in. And I feel it's kind of what they do with Trish Stratus and Lita. And the fact of the matter is that they sold that they're going to be there ahead of time. Obviously, I feel is part in to do with ticket sales.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, they're not doing it in a big arena either.
I think
it's not that big of an arena.
I don't think it's a small arena. I think it's a regular arena where they hold Monday Night Raw.
I mean, it's like, to me, I think it's. I mean, I would equate it to, I know we work a lot of the hockey games here in Syracuse. I work for the work in the Crunch games. You work the Comets games. I would consider it like an AHL size arena.
Have you looked it up?
No, I'm just shooting from the hip.
No. This is not.
Is it that big?
It is. They've shrunk it. The Nassau Coliseum.
Is it that big?
It hosted SummerSlam 2002 with Brock Lesnar and The Rock.
Is it that big?
It hosted one leg of WrestleMania. It is the old.
I know
home.
my friends down there would be upset with me, but I don't know the capacity on that.
It's the old home of. I'm going to look it up right now.
The old home of the Islanders, right?
The old home of the Islanders. Now they've shrunk it down because of the fact that they don't have.
It's that big,
but 14,500. So they'll probably draw 12,000 for the event. Obviously, you're going to have the set will be on one side. So yeah, it'll be it hosted Monday Night Raw.
So do you think it gets
after
more
Backlash?
You think? I mean, obviously it has a big capacity. I didn't even know the capacity. So to my friends downstate, my apologies there, because I have a lot of wrestling fans that listen to the show out downstate. So I apologize for the 14.5. I'm sure I'll hear about that on Twitter later. Do you think it? I mean, back to the point. Do you think it's actually going to sell more tickets than the All In thing?
Well, it's going to be tough. The All In, I think, capped out at 10,000, right? And I would assume they're trying to go for a sellout here. I mean, they're not going to.
No, they're not going to do like 50% full.
Yeah. So.
Wow. I just, for some reason, I always thought, I don't follow the Islanders by any means when they were there. I know they're not there anymore.
I think they shrunk the capacity just a little bit. Because of the fact that they don't have a permanent tenant, that the Islanders left and they turned it more into a concert venue. And it doesn't have a long-term home. I think it is just going to be treated like a concert wrestling kind of venue.
For the folks listening and watching us, you can't really see us. So
the name has been changed to NYCB Live. I don't know what the CB New York something at Nassau. So it's shrunk, but it's still like I said, it's still an
I didn't
arena.
Realize it was that. I mean, I know you're more well traveled than I am. I didn't realize it was that big. So I thought it was small.
Yeah, it's not the Garden, or it's probably even a little. It's smaller than Barclays Center too.
What's the size of War Memorial then?
In Syracuse,
it was like 6,000, right?
About 6,800. Yeah,
6,000.
So with a wrestling show, I mean, 5,000 would be considered a sellout, I guess, for that.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder. The only thing I worry is if they don't sell it out. Because it could be, I think it's a great PR move, anyways. For this whole women's thing. This push for equality. I mean, we've seen it on the ESPYs and these different these sports award shows that have been going on. The last couple weeks. I just hope it doesn't fall flat. I don't think it will.
I think the fact that they're giving it a few months to build it up, I feel that they are going to make sure to go out of their way to really build this event up. I mean, to put it on a pedestal where it's not just considered the tables, ladders, and chairs, or the Extreme Rules, or the Backlash of that month. They're going to treat it like a signature event. Like they're going to treat it like they would WrestleMania or SummerSlam in the regard when it comes to the specialness of the event. They're not just going to be like, oh, by the way, next month bragging rights, or oh, by the way, next month Fastlane is just going to be women only. And they're going to treat it more than they do Fastlane or Elimination Chamber, any one of these kind of regular in-between pay-per-views. That's why they're talking about where it is now. They're not telling us where Bragging Rights or Hell in a Cell is. They're not hyping that up. They're hyping up SummerSlam and this. So it shows that it's got that kind of power to be hyped up even with other pay-per-views coming before it. And I think that's, and add Trish Stratus, add Lita. This is all a big ticket sale ploy.
I'm hoping, I have a good feeling it's going to sell out. I hope it doesn't fall flat.
Even if it doesn't sell out, I just hope that it's what they expect.
I hope so.
That's what matters the most. Monday Night Raw, what it led off with when it comes to wrestling, the tag titles on the line, the B team winners again.
Love it. This is a breath of fresh air. Watching the show on Monday night with my wife, I'm sitting there like, when they won, I was like, oh. And she likes it too. I mean, she's not as big of a wrestling fan as we are, of course, but she follows it and she's like, man, this is nice. It's different than what you normally see. It's these guys. The B team's fun. I just enjoy them. I think I wonder how far this goes, but I'm really enjoying this whole B team championship reign.
So moving on to some of the main topics. Obviously, we know the two main matches for SummerSlam. Now let's start with Raw. A great match, I thought. Very entertaining. I thought it was Bobby Lashley's best match since he's been in WWE. Pay-per-views included, against Roman Reigns on Monday Night Raw.
Wow, are you giving Roman props? I mean, what's is this a backhanded compliment to Roman? Is this what this is?
I'll give both props. Okay. It was probably bigger props to Bobby Lashley because I haven't really been that impressed with him since he's been back to WWE. But I would say this was his best match. Michael Cole says it all the time. It's got that big fight feel. This main event has got that big fight feel. I felt Monday Night Raw, he was right there. It did have the big fight feel.
Yeah, it was a pay-per-view quality match. I really enjoyed it. It was a good match, and I'm very happy. I know you're not happy, I'm sure. Roman Reigns did come out victorious, so I was very happy about that because I'm part of the Push Roman movement, and I've always been. So even I know he gets his pushes, and it was funny because I'm watching him cut a promo last night or Monday night, and I'm like, when he was cutting, I'm thinking of you because he's like, with the opportunities things,
with all the people that say that I'm getting pushed down your throat. Yeah.
I love it. I thought of you because I'm like, you are one of those.
You should probably
people.
Think of everybody. I mean, I'm not alone in this. That's the majority opinion.
I wouldn't say the majority. I think it's split. I think it's split pretty even. I really do. Like when you go, I
feel it's going the other way because so many people are getting tired of Brock Lesnar. So I feel that's why he's getting some ground because of people turning away from Brock Lesnar.
Because Brock Lesnar, I know you love Brock, but Brock is not good. Brock is not good for the business. At this stage, he needs to be a fighting champion. I mean, like we talked about, on previous
episodes. He's a fighting
episodes,
champion. He'll be fighting Daniel Cormier in the UFC.
That is not a fighting champion for WWE. I mean, it's good if he's
better than a fighting champion. How many champions have taken their belt to legitimate?
If you're a champion, you fight like AJ Styles does at every pay-per-view.
And that is a championship match I probably will be looking forward to more at SummerSlam. It's official. Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan. Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles.
Yeah, I know you want Daniel Bryan as champ. I get it. That's fine.
No, I'm happy where Daniel Bryan is going to be. That's another topic. Obviously, if anything, he doesn't need the belt because he went off the air more or less as the main event on SmackDown. It seems that it'll be him versus The Miz at SummerSlam.
Oh, that's definitely how it's built. What was funny? I'm watching that last segment of the show on SmackDown, and I'm like, there's no way there's a baby in there. I kind of had a feeling because that baby that was way too quiet.
And didn't move, and it was pretty obvious.
Because it was you could tell it was very stiff. So I'm like, this baby's not sleeping. There's no way. And I'm like, as soon as he I saw him at the end, he was getting ready to throw it. I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely not a baby because number one, Miz would not do that. Number two, Maurice would not allow that. And number three, that would just be bad all around. So when he, it was funny. Daniel played it so well. The baby was in the baby doll was in the air, and Daniel caught it, and then he's like, what? and then Miz does what Miz does.
Yes. So Daniel Bryan and The Miz. AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship. Becky Lynch versus Carmella.
Mella's money. I think it continues.
James Ellsworth was fired,
which we talked about last week.
Now, do you think this is a legit thing, or do you think this is just a temporary thing? I mean, do you think they brought him back just for a little gimmick, and then they're going to fire him, and he's back out? Yeah. Or is this still part of the storyline?
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him at SummerSlam.
Now, kind of skipping ahead to the women's pay-per-view, and The reason I bring that up is because we just talked about James Ellsworth. Do you think the women's pay-per-view would lose credibility if it pulled some stunts like having James Ellsworth involved?
Yes.
Or even having male broadcasters? I'll let you take on both.
Male broadcasters, I wouldn't say no. I would say that's not a huge deal. I don't think that's as big of a deal as people might make it to be, because it's more about the competitors.
But does it have to have would it have to be like Tom Phillips, Corey Graves, and Beth Phoenix, or somebody in? Can it be the whole? Can it be Coach Michael Cole and Corey Graves?
Yes, I'm fine with that. I mean, maybe you do have a special guest. Maybe you do have Beth Phoenix. Maybe someone that would bring the show up a little bit more, but maybe is not ready to be in the ring, or chooses not to be in the ring. Maybe that you bring somebody like that in. The James Ellsworth thing, I think it would be bad overall if they did that, because it's supposed to be an all women's event. So when they word it like that, it's supposed to be an all women's show. So every match is women, women, women. Yes, James Ellsworth should not be
WWE's
involved.
pulled some stunts before. Obviously, the idea of this event is that they're done pulling those stunts that they used to do, a.k.a. Santina Morella winning the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal at 25. That kind of nonsense. So I agree. I think this has to be 100% all women, meaning I don't want to see Ellsworth with Carmella.
No.
I don't. Even if Ellsworth is with Carmella in the storylines, find a way to ban him from ringside or something.
I mean, here's what I think. It's he's either done or he's going to be at SummerSlam, and then somehow they'll fire him between SummerSlam and then the Evolution pay-per-view.
Now, this week I watched Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, and I don't know what to make of it. It was a decent show, but at the same time, it really is just reiterating the fact that Impact Wrestling, I don't know what direction they're trying to go in. Are they trying to be Ring of Honor? Because the show straight up, and what is the most important part of this is when they had Bound for Glory that I went to in Ottawa, it was under what I believe was the older regime, when they were back at the six-sided ring. So they did six-sided ring, regular ring, back to six-sided ring, and that's where they were when I went. It was six-sided ring minus all the stars. They were just getting rid of the Kurt Angle Stings. They just broke up the relationship with Jeff Jarrett, that whole thing. Now, the presentation was pretty good when it comes to the entranceway. It was what you expect when you watch Impact Wrestling. It had the multiple video boards. It had the guys broadcasting from up by the stage. And while it didn't have a large crowd, it kind of looked like the Impact Zone. When I watched Slammiversary, it looked very much like a Ring of Honor show. Like the camera was placed, and this is probably because this was a small nightclub style venue in Toronto. The camera was placed on one side facing down at the ring, kind of like video game style, where it's like facing not at the ring like you would in WWE, and not at the ring on the side. It was facing down at the ring from one of the end zones where the entrance is on the other side. Then there's the ring, so it's facing at the entrance. Yeah. But it's not facing at the entrance. It's like facing down on the ring. So it looks like the way you watch indie wrestling films, or you like look up YouTube videos of your friends wrestling in their garage, and it's like a hard camera that's like down on the ring, so it sees everything without having to turn left and right, without having to have a cameraman, essentially. Yeah. And then the entrance ramp went right up to the ring, and it was very small. I mean, like the video board was smaller, similar to what you see when you turn on Ring of Honor. Like it was shrunken down because the ceiling looked very low. And it was a decent show, but at the same time, like it didn't make me harken back to memories of Slammiversary like we talked about before. It's hard to believe that we talk so bad about Impact Wrestling when if you look back on it, it was actually pretty good for what we have now. You're like, I remember when, this was awful. Yeah, at the time it was awful, but now we look back on it and we're like, wow, that was in an arena like the War Memorial. Impact Wrestling was filling up an arena like that with 6,000 people with Sting and Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle and Christian Cage and the whole 9 yards. And they had some decent stars. Tommy Dreamer took on Eddie Edwards in a hardcore match. It was pretty good. Sami Callihan is getting up there as a more decent name. But at the same time, still felt like Ring of Honor. And the problem with that is Ring of Honor's got such a good stranglehold on that non-WWE market is I don't know what to do with Impact Wrestling right now.
I don't think Impact knows what it wants to do.
I mean, it wants to scale down. It wants to reevaluate, take itself down, stop taking itself so highly like it did before. They tried competing with WWE, and the people who took it over were like, that's stupid. Let's be something smaller, low key. The problem is we have lots of independent wrestling. That's different. But for something that's trying to have pay-per-views, make people pay money, it's like we only need one organization in each of those fields. And we already have Ring of Honor in that field. So I don't really know what to do with Impact Wrestling. It was a decent show. I was talking with somebody on Sunday, and they said, I heard it sold out. Yeah, but when I watched the show, it looked like it might have been a smaller crowd than even Bound for Glory. And that's not because of the demand, but because it was a very small venue. And I heard it was a nightclub. And indeed, it was a nightclub. If there was 1,500 people in there, that'd probably be a high end. That'd be the most. That'd be where it'd max out 1,500. But it was very small, and I'm very curious where Impact Wrestling goes from here when it comes to like their next pay-per-view. Love the fact they're not having a pay-per-view a month like they did in the past, but they're making some strides. But at the same time, it felt like I was watching Ring of Honor wrestling. And what really helped me feel like I was watching Ring of Honor wrestling was the fact that they had Don Callis as an announcer, who's been all over New Japan Wrestling, and obviously the former network face of ECW way back in the 90s. He's still hanging around wrestling. He was there instead of I think it was Josh Matthews.
Josh Matthews, yes.
And Don Callis, and that's not what they've had. What they let go of Jeremy Borash, so it does seem different. Jeremy Borash made it feel like I knew I was watching Impact Wrestling if I was listening to him. Or Don West, or what's the one that was from WCW that I can't think of? Mike Tenay.
Yeah,
Mike Tenay.
Yep.
So one of those guys. So watching these guys, it felt it was dimmer, and it was just like, this feels a lot different than any Impact Wrestling I'm used to watching, because I'm used to that presentation from when I watched when AJ Styles and Samoa Joe were all in it. I didn't watch it all the time. I would have now, obviously, if I knew of things to come. Impact Wrestling probably I would have watched a lot more if I knew. I mean, I knew the guys were good, but like people with minor league sports, they take it for granted. They're like, yeah, I know he's good, and I know, but and then when they do become good, they do are like, I should have watched a little bit more on their way up with
because you missed some things.
Yeah, you missed a lot of AJ Styles and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting.
So what do you give it out of 10?
I give it a 6 out of 10.
Well, that's pretty good.
I watched the G1 special in San Francisco a few weeks back on Access TV. It was a free event, and New Japan Wrestling is more popular in the States or in North America. They got like 10,000 people for that show at the Cow Palace in San Francisco.
Nice.
With Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes for the championship. That was a few weeks back. That was a great show as well. So I just feel that Impact Wrestling, I hope it finds its place. Right now, it's it's trying to be too much like Ring of Honor, which isn't going to work out so much for it.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't think I wish them the best, but they got to find their own style.
Yeah, that's why they kept going back to the 6-sided ring. Even when they went to the regular ring, they went back to the 6-sided ring because they're like, well, that's not doing us any good. So we got to maybe do this again.
Find that happy medium between maybe a Ring of Honor and WWE.
To be honest with you, I think the happiest medium for Impact Wrestling is take all their wrestlers, let them go to Ring of Honor, and then fold as a company.
That's a fair point.
All right, so we talked a little Impact Wrestling. We talked Raw SmackDown this week, WWE Women's Evolution pay-per-view that's going to be in October, and I think that's a perfect time for it because unlike the Greatest Royal Rumble and some other stuff, it's not being crammed down our throats. They just eliminated a pay-per-view. Now we could bring that up maybe in future weeks. Could that have been something right there? We all heard about TLC being eliminated from the October calendar. And I thought that was pretty much just to give that Australia show that kicks off October a little more publicity, make it that month. But maybe it actually could be to give Evolution more publicity.
That's what I think.
So either way, we'll talk about that in the future. We'll also have a video up for our social media SmackDown of the week, where actually the WWE Women's Evolution event will be brought up as our Twitter question of the week. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to stay tuned for that video, as well as make sure to follow Icebreaker21 on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Simple enough. Myself, Jared Wicks, at Jared Wicks, and the program at Heel to the Face. And most importantly, if you're watching us on YouTube, to subscribe to our channel for all our videos.